Good morning, gamers. It is I, Sport9013 here. Today we're gonna go over hashtag #MeToo movement has affected single men, how to be their behaviors basically. Has affected how single men behave. New survey finds by CBS. Right? Let's be real. It's gonna get copyright strike. I'm gonna be as family friendly as possible. And you guys are going to enjoy this. Check this out.
A big new study out this morning looks at how the Me Too movement is affecting dating culture. 51% of American single men say the movement made them change how they act. That's according to the new study by the dating company Match. 59.
Now the question is, why? Right? They're not giving a reason, right? They're not being specific.
Percent of all singles said the Me Too movement is important to them, and nearly half agreed it started a much-needed conversation.
You see,
Match
statements are very broad because it can mean anything, all right? And I mean anything. When was this released? Okay, this could be anything, right?
More than 5,000 single men and women from age 18 to 99. Really, 99. Helen Fisher is a biological anthropologist and the chief scientific advisor for Match, and she joins us first on CTM. Helen, good to see you.
You see, you know what's funny and ironic? That when it comes to men issues, they always ask a woman, why is this? Well, I theorize that if they allow a man to talk about men's issue, they'll point out every single flaw in the system. And like everybody will get pissed. Let's be real. The hashtag #MeToo will be pissed. They'll trying to go on a witch hunt. It's not gonna be pretty. That's why they always ask a woman to talk about men's issues, which is wrong, right? Because you expect a woman to talk about women's issues, and you expect a man to talk about men's issues, right? But no, it's always a woman talking about men's issues. What do they know, right? And I'll elaborate more on that later.
We should point out at the outset that this looked at, it doesn't matter who you are attracted to in this case. People are all right. It's just how do you feel about the Me Too movement? How did it affect you?
Right.
We said 59% of singles find the movement to be important, but when you look at men alone, it's less than half. So is that enough to actually change how we date?
Yeah. Well, 51% of men have changed their behavior. 40% of men have changed their behavior at work, and 33% of men have changed their behavior on a date. And actually, social scientists have been tracking social change for decades, and that's a huge change. I mean, if you get people to stop eating, try to ask people to stop eating sugar, or get some more exercise, or drink less, very few people really change their behavior. This is a massive social change.
And why do you think there's a massive social change, right? Like they're trying to dodge the question, right? You see, I've even read an article about some business CEOs refusing to hire women or refusing to train women at their job because of being afraid of being accused of sexual assault, right? A lot of men are scared. Therefore, they try to avoid women as a plague because they don't want to get their life ruined. That's why they're changing their behavior. On a date, same thing. They're very cautious. They want them to make the first move so that they'd be like, hey, I didn't do anything. You know what I mean? They are afraid.
How their behavior is changing?
They're being more reserved. They're being more careful. They're trying to make sure that their jokes are appropriate, that they have the right kinds of conversations. And what's so interesting about it for me is that actually, with this Me Too movement, 90% of men would be perfectly happy if a woman asked them for their telephone number. 90% would be perfectly happy if a woman made the first...
Yes, 90% of men will be happy if the woman asks them for their number. But 100% of the women will not ask a man for their number. You know what I mean, right? Because when was the last time you seen a woman ask for a man's phone number? Never. It's always the guy approaching the chick and asking her for the number. Keep that in mind.
sexual movement and had a kiss.
But the women are
doing it.
Women want both.
The women aren't doing it. I was thinking about this last night. I thought, should we reinstate Sadie Hawkins' Day so that women begin to try and figure out, So it's interesting how in business women are really going for equality, whereas in courtship they're still playing a much more traditional game than men.
Is it the women playing?
Not really the equality, per se. What do I mean by that? Not really equality. They always want more, right? Like, there is no law, and I mean no law, right, that makes people not pay them the same as others. If you have a particular set of skills, you get paid by those particular set of skills, right? And also depends on how much you work, how many hours you put, how many years you've been working on the business, how many days off you get, right? How many vacations you get, how many sick days you take. It all adds up, and that's your pay, right? Right. But people don't like to grab all these factors in.
Game, or is it the men being overly cautious now? I mean, are they overcorrecting? 90% saying they want the woman to make the first move.
The correction is exactly the right word for it. I mean, it's a little like the stock market. There's now a correction. But what's really happening is we're seeing growing equality between the sexes. And in fact, we are shedding actually 10,000 years of our agrarian tradition. I mean, we used to believe a woman's place was in the home, that the man was the head of the household till death do us part. And indeed, we're seeing this massive change towards general equality between the sexes. And the last part to really change is this.
That was too idealistic.
But this is a huge social movement that is moving us towards this economic, social, sexual equality between the sexes.
Your study said that 1/3 of young singles say their financial situation has held them back from pursuing love.
Yeah. I study millennials. I'm really impressed by millennials. They're very...
Okay. About the income part. Who's expected to buy expensive presents like a $1,000 ring, so on and so forth? The guy, right? The guy is supposed to, like, by society, and everyone knows this, the guy is supposed to provide for the woman, right? Even if the woman has a job, the guy has to provide her stuff. Whatever she wants, he has to provide, right? And it's expensive. Trust me, it is expensive. And some of these guys don't have the money to provide for them. They barely have enough for themselves to survive, right? They barely have enough to treat themselves. And when a woman comes in, they're always broke. And a woman doesn't like a broke man, right? At least most of them. But like a lot of them are very selfish, right? Because the guy works extra hours, and those extra hours he puts in, he spends the extra money on her, and she doesn't realize that.
Cautious, and they're very ambitious. And
it sounds like they're very practical.
They're very practical. I mean, very different from my generation. I'm a baby boomer. They're marrying much later. I call it slow love. They're spending a lot of time. Yeah, I mean, actually, first they want to be just friends, then they want to move into friends with benefits. You learn a lot between the sheets, right? And then they slowly tell friends and family, and then they slowly move in together, and then they wed. And the later you marry, the more likely you are to remain together. So it's a very interesting, solid, good movement, but they're being very careful. Just like you said, they want to make sure they're financially stable, that their career is in order, before they actually catch feelings.
I love when you say that we are built for love, in your words. 75% of those surveyed said they believe in a lifelong partnership.
Yes, and some, I've done this study with Match for 9 years, and it's a national study. We do not poll the Match members. It's a national representative sample of Americans based on the U.S. Census. And every year I ask that question. And some years as much as 89% of both men and women believe that when you find the right one, you can do it forever. And it's entirely possible in this day and age. The later you marry, the more likely you are to remain married. And that's what the young are doing. They're being very cautious, very practical, as you said.
And they're being optimistic.
And they are optimistic. And they should be, for God's sakes,
There it is.
Interesting that most singles meet through dating apps now.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Fascinating
Yes.
study.
Yep.
Ellen Fisher, thank you so much for being here.
Interesting. Now, here's the thing, right? Why do you think that people take longer to get married? That's a smart question, right? Because we have trust issues now. We cannot trust each other anymore, right? We can't, right? And it's harder for men because anything you say could be used against you.